Good evening. I'm going to say something I never thought I would. Thank you, Shamima Begum. This one ISIS bride from Tower Hamlets is probably about to bring down the Labour government and get us out of the ECHR. Now, the ECHR is challenging the UK's ban on Begum ever returning to the UK after her lawyers brought an appeal. So how do we think the ECHR is going to rule? Well, previously, judges from countries like Montenegro, Latvia, Liechtenstein and Slovenia have decided that al-Qaeda fanatic Abu Qatada couldn't be deported. Do you know who actually represented Abu Qatada in an earlier case? Yes, it's our now Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. Classic. The ECHR ruled that we couldn't deport someone because their son didn't like foreign chicken nuggets, that we couldn't enact the Rwanda plan, and it also allowed Gazans into Britain. In 2024, it sided with a bunch of geriatric Swiss women who argued that their age and gender made them particularly vulnerable to life-threatening heat waves caused by climate change.
Tonight the media panics as elites lose control. Activists masquerade as journalists, and authority melts down on air, because ordinary people see the narrative collapsing and watch power humiliated.
Change. So the ECHR is pretty obviously going to say that we have to take Shamima back. And this will be a nightmare for Labour. Why? Well, Sir Keir Starmer's Attorney General and close friend, Lord Hermer, said this Labour government would never deviate from an ECHR ruling. There you go. That is just black and white, isn't it? So the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is saying that she will fight any attempt to bring Shamima back. And that, my friends, is a problem for Labour. The Immigration Appeals Commission, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal and then the Supreme Court again have all said that Shamima Begum should not be allowed back to Britain. So when a load of anonymous foreign judges in a foreign country tell us that we have to take her, I don't think the British public are going to like that very much. And if Sir Keir Starmer sides with his international lawyer mates, I think that's pretty much game over for him. But it will also be game over for the ECHR. There'd be demonstrations, there'd be massive calls to leave, and at the next election, people will vote for whatever party says that they will take us out of it. So thank you, Shamima, for being about to bring down a Labour government and for helping to restore full sovereignty back to the British legal system. I would also like to thank her for giving me another excuse to play these clips. This is her saying there's no evidence she's a threat.
I don't see why he would see me as a threat. I'm a 19-year-old girl with a newborn baby. I don't have any weapons. I don't want to hurt anyone, even if I did have weapons or anything. So he has no proof that I'm a threat. Other than that, I was in ISIS, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the ISIS thing is quite a big deal, actually. And she was actually all right with ISIS atrocities.
Did you know what Islamic State were doing when you left for Syria? Because they had beheaded people, there were executions.
Yeah, I knew about those things and I was okay with it.
This is where it falls apart. Repeated questions expose bias, denials collapse, and fake concern shatters credibility as foreign judges, lawyers, and politicians protect narratives while viewers feel anger validated and sense reality breaking through.
Bingo. So, I personally really like the PR job they've tried to do on her. So she went from ISIS bride Shamima, boo, hiss, oh no, to totally normal girl next door Shamima. Hello, fellow liberal Westerners. Forgot about the fact that I was in a jihadi death cult. I like baseball caps and lipstick now. I am one of you. And then she went one step further. She offered to help fight terrorism if we bring her back to Britain. Oh yeah, fantastic. That would be like me and the SAS offering to go to Calais to do a humanitarian mission to help the human traffickers. Look, wouldn't it just be absolutely delicious if it turns out that of all the things, it's a jihadi bride from Tower Hamlets that finally ends Sir Keir Starmer's political career?
Oh. Yeah, but I stand corrected on the previous hour. Maybe diversity is our strength if this is what's going to do this. Look, I used to actually think that this was our problem. We allowed a 15-year-old girl to be so radicalised by Islamist terrorist ideology and to slip away that it should be the British state's responsibility to bring her back and make her face justice. I used to think that. Unfortunately, I think the situation in this country is now so dire dire in so many ways that if we can shorn ourselves of these sorts of problems and have this person who just admitted there, I always forget this, admitted she knew all the beheadings, she knew presumably about the kind of open air sex slave auctions that were going on, and the mass rapes and beheadings and killings and all the rest. She was fine with all of that. But forget this about her at this point. We don't need to have these people in our country. Why would we want them here? But of course, the foreign judges in the ECHR apparently know better. And I think you're right, this is going to cause a massive problem. Shabana Mahmood is going to try and look tough on all of this, but she's going to be outvoted by Keir Starmer, who built his entire career on the idea that international law is more important than British domestic law. It's going to be the most almighty Barney, and the country is going to be able to see that Labour prioritises the rights of people like Shamima Begum over the rights of the rest of us.
I mean, Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, being a human rights lawyer, there is no way that he would ever go against his human rights lawyer mate. It's absolutely not going to happen. And he's really skating on thin ice at the moment when we have just had over the past week this story about Alaa Abdel Fattah, where we've had someone who's put up these tweets glorifying terrorism, saying we need more suicide bombings and whatnot. He's been welcomed with open arms by the Prime Minister, Yvette Cooper and David Lammy. That is making him look like a terrorist sympathiser. And then if he ends up submitting to the ECHR when all the UK courts have said absolutely no way this girl's not allowed back in the country, he is going to look bad. And then, of course, we've got the story that's just come out in the Telegraph this evening about our government signing off on 240k being handed to a terrorist in prison because he wasn't allowed to hang out with the other terrorists in prison that he wanted to be with.
Yeah, which David Lammy did not appeal.
Yeah.
He didn't appeal that
So
ruling.
it's really starting to look like this government are a load of terrorist sympathisers, and all of this together, if Shamima comes back, that's like the cherry on top of the cake.
Well,
that may lead to his
on
downfall.
that then, Susie, do you think that if we're going to talk about this a bit more at 10:30, by the way.
This is the mask-off moment where authority loses control and the script collapses completely. Watch the presenter panic, deflect, repeat loaded questions, and talk over reality, because narrative control matters more than truth. This is why people don't trust the media anymore. Courts are ignored, public anger is dismissed, and foreign rulings are elevated above common sense. Ordinary people hear one thing while elites sell another. When leaders preach responsibility yet surrender sovereignty, the contradiction humiliates them. The performance becomes activism, not journalism. Viewers aren't confused. They're furious and awake. This isn't just one case. It's civilizational decline playing out live. Rules bend, standards vanish, and accountability disappears. And when power finally shatters under its own lies, the media asks why trust is gone. Every pause, smirk, and evasion signals panic as authority losing control becomes impossible to hide on screen. After watching this collapse, who are they really protecting?
10:30, by the way, but this, I mean, he's just a jihadi.
I have a big problem with it being abused and used in the wrong way. Someone would be stupid if they said that that isn't happening. That is what's happening. The Home Secretary and Keir Starmer have made it very clear that we are going to change the law in this country so that it cannot be misused. So we don't have these random stories. I mean, I think the chicken nugget one possibly wasn't, as black and white as that. But ultimately, it's been abused. So they're going to change the law so it cannot be misused in that way. That is very important.
But I'm
because
not sure that's
your
going to keep
listeners,
Shamima Begum away, specifically for, I think, rights for family life.
I'm saying we need to look at the facts. The Home Secretary's made it very clear she's got a hard line on this.
Okay, well, there we go. Well, look, we'll see what happens. I mean, I would be willing to put a tenner on it. And I think that the ECHR will say she has to come back. I think that puts the Labour government in an incredibly difficult situation. And look, Lord Hermer has said, we've played the clip of him, he said she's going to have to come back. What will happen there? But anyway, a Home Office spokesperson has said the government will always protect the UK and its citizens. That is why Shamima Begum, who posed a national security threat, interesting use of past tense there, by the way, had her British citizenship revoked and is unable to return to the UK. We will robustly defend any decision made to protect our national interests. There you go. That's their line. They're sticking to it. Well, yeah, we'll see. There's still a few other
Maybe back on if anything changes.